Hi, this is Hoda Rubino from DevilsDigest.com here in Las Vegas at the Pac-12 Media Day along with Arizona State head coach Kenny Dillingham. And Kenny, when you look at the readiness of the team 10 days before the beginning of fall camp, is it the readiness level that you expected it to be?
Yeah, I mean, you never know. I mean, when you have such a change in roster, you don't really set the expectations on where you expect to be. You just try to be better every single day. So I think our guys have worked. They've put in the time to maximize the summer, and that's where we're at.
When you look at coming out of spring practice, doing an assessment of the roster, where are some of the gaps that need to be filled? I would say offensive line and defensive line are probably maybe the two main ones, but post-spring practice, transfer portal. Transfer portal never sleeps. Seems like you guys did a good job with the additions over there.
Yeah, offensive and defensive line are obviously where games are won, so you always want to improve those spots, and you need the depth in those spots, and I think we addressed that, like you said, post-spring ball.
Was there one pleasant surprise that came out of spring practice?
Yeah, I would just say the camaraderie with the guys that were on the roster, and I think the buy-in to the culture that we're trying to create of competitiveness, I think the guys really bought into it, and I think they really worked hard.
When you envisioned one day I'm going to be a head coach, and aside from the X's and O's, this is how I'm going to establish a team culture that I want to see. Does that also go into your planning as to, again, one day I'm going to be a head coach and this is what I want to do just from a team culture perspective?
100%. I think one thing is, regardless of who you are, kids are going to see if you're fake. Kids are going to see if you're real. So your team culture has to reflect who you are as a person and who you're going to be every day. Because if you try to create a culture that you can't live in, either you're not going to live your own culture or your kids are going to see that you're being fake every single day. So I think just being genuine and being who you are has to be a reflection of the culture you're going to create.
Is it too obvious that most of the people that do go into transfer portal are the ones with the so-called chip on their shoulder? And is that something that works maybe to your advantage as you really try to promote the honesty part of your team culture, something that, let's say, is really missing from a lot of other teams?
Yeah, I mean, I think kids go into the transfer portal for an array of reasons, whether they were lied to, whether they didn't get the opportunities, whether they just feel like they need another platform to play on. And so I don't know if that's specific, but a lot of the kids on our team that we did recruit did have chips on their shoulders, that we did bring in did have chips on their shoulder. And that's kind of the culture we want, is we want to have a lot of fun, working harder than anybody in the country, and competing. And when you have guys with a chip on their shoulder, you have guys that haven't had the success that they were supposed to have in college, or guys that didn't get recruited out of high school at a high level, but had a lot of success. They all have a different chip on their shoulder, and hopefully everybody's vision and goal is all in the same direction to prove people wrong.
I don't mean to jump all the way into December, but when the new transfer portal window opens, when it comes to recruiting strategy, maybe some people are actually going to not load up on high school and junior college transfers this early in the year, just keeping those spots open for the transfer portal. It seems like you actually really believe in the other philosophy, just load up on who you can get right here, right now, worry about the transfer portal later. Can you explain the thinking behind that philosophy?
Yeah, we want to sign players that we feel like are good enough to win this league, right? If that's a high school player, great. If it's a transfer, great. But we're not gonna, this isn't gonna be a program that says, oh, we couldn't get this kid, so we're gonna reach to a kid that we don't think is good enough. In today's day and age in college football, it's about having the maximum amount of talent on your roster, and there's so many different ways to do that, you can't reach anymore. So the kids that we sign, the kids that we get committed, we believe are good enough to win this league. And we're not going to reach below that standard like you used to in the past because the rules were different. We're going to change our model.
With the pace of offense that you run, now with the new rule change of the clock not stopping after first downs unless it's last 2 minutes in the second quarter, last 2 minutes in the fourth quarter, have you already given any thought how it can affect it, or is it maybe more trivial than people think it is?
It's going to shorten games, so offensive statistics are going to be probably at a low this year, and defensive points per game and yards per loud are going to be lower than they have in the past. There's a few game management situations that 2-minute drills, 4-minute drills, that this is going to affect in terms of when to use timeouts. So we've already talked about all that. But other than that, it's really just going to affect statistics, and it makes adjustments even more important because you're going to limit the game in less possessions. So you're going to have to adjust quicker and try to figure out what they're doing offensively or defensively to attack you faster, because possessions are more valuable than they were in the past.
And last question, I mean, everybody has their own to-do list, and some might have a longer or shorter to-do list, but if you had to identify, Kenny, the top 3 items that you want to accomplish going into fall camp, what would that list look like?
I want to find who's going to be our quarterback, right? I want to have a culture of guys to competing and physicality, and understand that every day we're going to manage your workload, but they've got to be willing to compete, and run through a wall. And then we got to have a group of guys that are together through the highs and the lows of camp, together through the highs and the lows of the season. So if we see those three things when we get out of camp, I'll be pretty happy.
Kenny, thank you so much. Try to enjoy the media car wash today. And for Kenny Dillingham, this is Hoder Bino reporting for DevilsDigest.com from the Pac-12 Media Day at Las Vegas.